for Anthony to execute him, and they went to Gilligan's after they murdered him, and they had a new drink, pushing Up Daisies, and they all laughed about that.
In this parole hearing, we'll watch where a man who is convicted of robbery and execution fights for his freedom. The wife speaks up, but will it be enough?
Anthony Pascal, DOC number 383958, first class offender. Parole eligibility date 8/1/2023. Good time 3/9/2044. Full term 7/10/2094. 99-year sentence, first degree murder, and you were had commutation to 99 years by the governor. Signed on August the 1st, 2023.
Sure, understandably so. As mentioned, your sentence was commuted, but your original pardon hearing was back in 2021 in December.
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, you got a unanimous vote to recommend commutation of your sentence, and that was based on favorable recommendations by the warden, good programs. You had a low risk score, the community service work that you do as an inmate counsel, and your transition plan was with the parole project. The recommendation was that your sentence be commuted to 99 years with parole eligibility after having served 30 years. And you haven't served 30 years yet. However, I think you became parole eligible under a different act.
Yes,
So that's why we're here today. It's just a little bit early. So if you had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Heller's family, what would you say?
That I'm ashamed, and I'm ashamed and disgusted, embarrassed to have to admit that I ever was the person I was. There ain't a day goes by that I don't think about them and what I put them through. I know that my actions and choices affected a lot of people, ruined a lot of lives, traumatized a lot of people. So I do what I do to sure make something good came out of it. I mean, she was supposed to grow old with her husband. Me and my co-defendants took that from her.
Yes. Good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to support Mr. Baskell long term. He was 21 years old when he committed the offense he was involved in. It's not a juvenile, but it's not a full-fledged adult either. That does not excuse his behavior, and you can see the remorse that he has and the shame and the guilt that he carries with it. He can't change that.
Okay, go ahead and make your statement, Ms. Heller.
My mother died to save my life. This was a Friday. I got a call. My mother had died of a massive heart attack. Harry and I were going on a cruise on Saturday. I told him to go ahead and go on the cruise. I'm going to bury my mother. If she had not done that, I would have been at the house. They would have killed, Anthony would have killed me first, thinking Harry might die of a heart attack. I'm so distraught. For 28 years, I have nobody but my husband. Nobody has compared to him. And for Anthony to execute him, execution style, and they went to Gilligan's after they murdered him, and they had a new drink, pushing Up Daisies, and they all laughed about that. And I'm so distraught. For 28 years, I have to take anxiety medication. I have to take depression medication all that time. And I've upped it over the years.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry. So sorry to hear that. Ms. Terry, would you like to make a statement?
Anthony has taken no responsibility for any part of this, even though he confessed that he did it. He's then taken no responsibility for anything that's happened to him while he was in prison, to the shootings, to the guns that he had, to nothing. It's very worrisome to me that he will commit full crimes if he gets out, maybe against me or Ms. Heller. And I just do not feel like he has learned anything from this experience.
Yes, ma'am. So sorry. Thank you for your comment. All right. Mr. Randy Meyer.
We are strongly opposed to Mr. Baskell's release. He shot Mr. Heller in the head point blank range. And to suggest that because somebody's 21 years old, he doesn't know right from wrong and should be excused for committing such a heinous crime is at best. He knew what he was doing, that they had a plan to go there and rob Mr. Heller, and he shot him in the head. He was sentenced to life without parole. And the pardon board, as y'all pointed out, gave a recommendation which the governor agreed with and commuted his sentence to 99 years with 30 years of serving his sentence before he became parole eligible. I think this panel, although he is parole eligible under a different act, I think this panel should stand by that pardon board recommendation and the governor's recommendation. He was sentenced to life without parole. He should not get parole until at the earliest after the commutation of the sentence provision. Since that hearing back in December of 21, when obviously you saw there was very strong victim opposition. And one thing that bothers me is, and I agree with what Mr. Baskell said, he said, when you get out, you got to have good support system to help you get through things and to keep you on the straight and narrow, to keep you. There's no family support here. He has no support system here at all, except the parole project. For those reasons, we don't think he's ready to be released, and we're opposed to his request.
All right, Mr. Baskell, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
I understand and I empathize with what the family says and what the DA says. I'm going to continue walking forward in a positive manner. My prayer that what I've done kind of shows that I'm not the same individual that I once was. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Panel prepared to vote?
I voted for you before. I'm going to vote for you again. I would vote to grant you parole, but only after you complete the victim awareness program.
Yes, ma'am.
To the parole project, you have, of course, good programs. You have a low risk score. I've already mentioned the community service work, and I have confidence in your transition plan with the parole project. The only special condition I would add would be that you have no contact with the Heller family and that you do community service work 8 hours.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Freeman?
I agree with Ms. Renatza. You have done well. You've done a lot of things since we had the hearing, which I was not here at that time. I also am going to vote to grant and that you need to attend the parole project and follow all of their rules and recommendations. If y'all have any trouble with it, Mr. Myers, y'all let us know.
All right, you have 2 votes to grant your parole. I'm also going to vote to grant your parole today for the work you've done, the time you put in, and positive institutional record. Warden's comments. You're going to report to the parole project. You'll have a curfew from 10 p to 6 a. You'll have no contact with the Heller family. You'll have 8 hours of community service, and you'll go to NAAA 2 times a week. Do you understand the stipulations?
Yes, sir.
3 votes to grant. Your parole's been granted. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
This one's so frustrating because this is a case where you have a person, again, it shows there's no such thing as life, in prison. This person was pardoned down to 99 years, and the recommendation of the governor of the board was that he spend at least 30 years before he gets parole. And then they have a new legislative act come out that says, actually, you can get out before 30 years. So this person, again, goes for life in prison to 2 extra chances to get out. I mean, it's mind-boggling. This is what the families were promised. They were promised this person's never going to get out of prison, and there could have been a plea deal. Who knows what was involved with this? But it's the fact that, how does this affect them? You can see they're fighting the strong opposition every step of the way, and they didn't win, and this person's out there, and it makes no sense to me.
No, and the thing here too is that the perpetrator is so calm, so quiet, so polite. It's almost hard to get a grip of or understanding of what crime actually occurred. And then you hear from his widow, you hear from this woman who has a broken heart. She says nobody can ever replace her husband. She's hurting so much, but she talks about the fact that after this murder, he'd gone to a bar and there was a drink called Pushing Up Daisies, and it was all fun and games. They joked about it at the time. Very different than the person who is sitting there in that room that we saw. And it might not necessarily be, they always say, oh, I'm a different person now. I don't know if they're a different person than when they committed the crime. They're just in a different circumstance now. And you can see at the end of this, when he gets parole, how shocked the widowed woman is.
What stood out to me was how they were trying to excuse him as being, oh, he's only 21 years old.
He's not a full-fledged adult. adult.
Not a full-fledged adult. Again, that's the time in life that you're getting all the responsibility. And to say that he didn't know that he shouldn't rob and execute a man. They're trying to make this science-based reasoning that the brain isn't fully developed, and that's true. But it's developed enough to know if that murder is wrong. There's
You know murder's wrong from a pretty young age. He knew it was wrong when he committed the crime, and his age is of no excuse. His age makes it sad that he made that choice and he lost so much of his life and he was so young, but it doesn't excuse him in any way.
This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. This was taking a gun and putting it to someone's head at point blank range and pulling the trigger. She talks about how this is still affecting her and it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten worse. It's a travesty.
And I keep thinking how this man was sentenced to life and it was brought lower and lower and lower, and now he's basically released. The victim doesn't get that. Nothing changes for the victim, nothing changes for the family, nothing can bring the victim back to life. It's always siding with the perpetrator.